We're joined tonight by two folks from Educational Travel Adventures, Joanne Hardaby and Michelle Wagner, and that's the company that's putting the tour together for us, and also by Ashley Mann, who is the educator facilitator, who we've been really fortunate enough to meet and have her join the tour. And I'm really mostly excited to hear tonight about her plans and her ideas for this trip. But first up, what I wanted to do is just give you an idea of just what the itinerary is going to be. As you probably know, we're going to all meet in Atlanta on October 19th, which is a Saturday. And we are going to have an airport pickup, probably, perhaps another one. But generally, it's going to be a very busy day. We'll start at the Sweet Auburn Market. We'll go to the Martin Luther King Jr. Center. We'll get a chance to go to the Ebenezer Baptist Church and the other landmarks in that general vicinity. We'll see the famous John Lewis mural on right off of Auburn Avenue, and we'll have dinner at Mary Mac's Tea Room before heading to Montgomery for a late-ish check-in. The next day, on Sunday, October 20th, is kind of dedicated to the EJI sites, the Legacy Museum, the National Memorial for Peace and Justice, and then the Freedom Monument Sculpture Park, which was opened within the last, I want to say, 1 to 2 months. So that'll be exciting. And then on Monday, we'll have a walking tour of Montgomery. We'll have lunch with either Joanne Bland or another foot soldier, veteran of the civil rights movement. We'll take a tour of Selma. We will get a chance to walk across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, also visit the Viola Liuzzo Memorial. And then on Tuesday, we will visit the Southern Poverty Law Center, the Civil Rights Memorial there. The Maya Lin Civil Rights Memorial. We'll take a tour of Birmingham, which will include stops at the 16th Street Baptist Church and Kelly Ingram Park, which is right across from the church. And then finally on Wednesday, we will, if time permits, we'll stop at the Freedom Riders Memorial in Anniston, Alabama, on our way back to Atlanta. It's a really powerful spot, and it's not far from off the highway, and I'm hoping we'll be able to make time for that. And then we'll go to the National Center for Civil and Human Rights in Atlanta before we go to the airport and come back. So it's a packed few days, as you can tell. And so if it's all right now, I'd like to ask Michelle and Joanne to maybe discuss a little bit about, putting the thing together and what folks can expect.
Hi there. So in terms of this trip, we've done this trip many times. It's normally, it's always a success. Um, in terms of, Will, do you want me to talk about the registration piece?
Sure.
Yeah. So I'm sure Will provided you with information, or there was information in one of your newsletters regarding registering with us. It's a very simple process. You just go on the website and you can go ahead and register. It'll ask you, series of questions. If you need any help during the registration process, you can call us every day, any day during the week. Monday, can you see me? Yeah. Monday through Friday, 9 o'clock, and we answer phones until 5:30. Or if you needed to reach someone after hours, you can always send an email, and we'll help you through the process. So it is important to go ahead and start the registration process so that we can identify, and know how many people are going on the trip, and make plans accordingly. Joanne, I don't know if you want to add a little bit regarding the actual trip, some of the other pieces.
Did you also want to mention anything about the bus? Because people are going to be spending a lot of time on the bus. I know that's a matter of interest.
Oh, you mean in terms of, well, the bus has, we requested a bus with Wi-Fi. It's comfortable. It has bathrooms, but we do try to make sure that in every tour that we have, that we work in bathroom breaks, so that you don't have to go on the bus, but it's there. It's comfortable. And it also comes equipped, we've requested also that it comes equipped with a mic so that you can hear, the people who are administering the tour speaking. I don't know what else, were there other pieces about the bus? Yeah,
That's pretty much.
yeah. And is there also to help you so that you don't have to walk far, when we can assist, the bus driver will work with our tour manager, and with you, of course, to make sure that they're accommodating to everything that you need.
Yeah, and just on that, generally, the buses are about 55 to 56 seats. We always leave a seat open for our tour manager who manages the tour. And then you also have the educator, Ashley, who'll be riding along as well. So we'll keep those seats available for them. And then as far as the trip itself, we do several of these per year. We have another company that we work with that does trips like this. And they run about 3 or 4 a year. So this is something that we really enjoy doing. And like Michelle said, it is a very successful program. And I think that's all I have. Just on the registration process, you also have the opportunity to purchase trip cancellation insurance. If you wanted to, all payments are non-refundable. So if you thought maybe you'd have to cancel for any reason, we do offer that cancellation insurance when you register.
Yeah,
Thank,
glad you brought that up.
thank you both. So I'm really anxious to hear from Ashley. If Ashley, if you could join us. I think this is such a powerful and meaningful experience to visit these sites and to get context about how this all fits in together and in history. And I'm wondering, you've had a lot of experience doing this. And before we open up the floor for questions from people, which I'm sure they will have, I'm wondering if you could just talk a little bit about how you approach this experience and what you're hoping people will get out of it.
Yeah, well, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I will start out a little bit first by just giving a little bit of background about myself. I am from Birmingham, Alabama, born and raised, and I spent some time in Boston and DC. In Boston, I went to law school up there, practiced philanthropy and ed policy for about 8 years before I started litigating and serving as a practicing attorney in the District of Columbia. I have been fortunate that because I'm from Birmingham, I grew up with a lot of foot soldiers as church members, mentors, and family members. So the conversations were always around. So I'm fortunate in that regard. And all of the work that I've done, no matter whether it was legal or education, I've always approached the work from kind of a cultural competency lens and being very intentional on having conversations around civil rights history. So what I'm hoping that everyone gains from this experience is to have an openness to learning. I am very intentional about creating conversations and challenging perspectives, existing perspectives that you may have, and ways that we can all approach the work, both from a place of reverence, but also what can we do differently and more intentionally to create better impact within our communities. So I'm very grateful to kind of have that tool set within and to approach it from both a legal lens and an education perspective. I also serve as an adjunct professor at the University of Alabama. So I kind of have blended all of my legal, conflict resolution, and education expertise into one to really promote these conversations and create critical thinking spaces, education spaces, and really kind of self-assess, where are we in this work? How can we approach it better? And then how can we take our learning from just viewing and intaking this information, but also creating action steps from it? So I'm very excited about that.
Thanks, Ashley. That one thing that I want to stress is that this is not a sightseeing tour so much. This is an action activism tour. So we're, that's a large part of this. And, with the Marilyn Lynch Memorial Project, we always talk a lot about the power of place, and how meaningful it is to to be at these lynching sites that we memorialize and or to collect soil from, things like that. And I can tell you, having gone been to most of these spots last year on our tour, it was indescribably powerful how moving and how life altering this experience is. And so I'm hoping that you'll all be able to take advantage of this. And I wanted to really open up the floor now to questions that you guys might have. This is really your chance to to find out what you need to find out. Francis, please.
Thank you for putting on a program like this. I do have a couple of questions. I know the flight reservations are for us to obtain separately, I believe. But could you say a little bit more about, what do we do when we get to the airport? Where do we rendezvous? What time we need to be there? What time we'll be returning so that we can make, the appropriate flight reservations? Thanks.
So the pickup is scheduled for 1 o'clock at the airport, but that doesn't mean you can't get there the night before if you wish and spend the night either in Atlanta or at one of the airport hotels. We're actually still working out those particular logistics, but there will be a pickup at the airport at 1 o'clock. And I don't know where you're coming from, Francis, but I have been checking the flights to Atlanta now for that time, and they're pretty cheap. If the earlier, obviously, the earlier you get them, they're about I think $125 each way is when I last looked. So, yeah, hopefully that's helpful.
Okay, thanks. I'll be coming from Washington, D.C.
Okay.
But the also, excuse me, I think the other part of that is at some point we return, and therefore we'll be going back to the airport. So making the return flight reservations, that information is going to be important also.
Excellent. Gwendolyn.
Yes. I was wondering if you had a link for the website for registration. I had two other questions too.
I'm sorry, what was the question about the registration?
A link for the website.
Oh, yeah. Yes. In fact, that should have been on the earlier stuff, but I'll send it I'll send it to everyone who's here. I'll send it out again after the meeting. And there's instructions that come with it. If you get our newsletter, Gwendolyn, it would be in either of the last couple of newsletters, I'm pretty sure, but I'll send it out again.
Okay. And did she just put it in the chat?
Yes.
I just put the link in the chat. It's helpful.
All right. The other question I had is, how many people are you planning to have on this trip? And do you have deadlines for, or is that information out somewhere, like deadlines for paying for the trip or what have you?
So Joanne or Michelle, you can probably answer that better, but I think that we're hoping for between 35 and 50 people. I think that's the range we're looking at. And all of the registration payment deadlines are on the registration.
Yes. Yeah. And Will, you're correct. That's what we were talking about in terms of the numbers, that's what we were shooting for. And when you go on the website, it'll show you, it'll tell you when to make the deposit. Also the website once you sign up, we have a payment schedule. We're flexible, but what we'll do is we'll send you an email if a payment is late. We also make phone calls. We reach out to you. We will work with you. But yeah, there is a schedule, and once you sign up and you register and you make your deposit, then, we'll be in communication with you. Is that what you're, looking for?
Yes.
Okay. And I also think that, I just want to jump in. I thought the other gentleman asked about when we were leaving. Was your question answered?
Yes, I think I can find some of the information on the website once I go there.
Okay.
But just to summarize, my question was designed to make sure that I got to Atlanta on time,
Okay.
and that I got back from the bus trip to the airport on time. So I'll be looking at those times for the flight reservations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good,
Francis,
yeah.
I'll follow up with a note about that, but
Thank you.
we're not going to leave you anywhere.
I'm comfortable in Atlanta, so leave me.
Well, well, maybe you want to be left there then. Okay. Mr. Bennett.
Thanks. So it's wonderful to hear the description being indescribably powerful. And I heard, I believe, a little bit about, discussion on the bus or challenging perspectives or other kinds of things. So is there any time to sit as a group during this busy, jam-packed day and kind of talk about reactions, or you just kind of, the person you're sitting next to on the bus or the person you sit with at the table in the restaurant, or there is some time built into the program to kind of hear other people's perspectives and how we're all dealing with this being indescribably powerful?
Yeah, there will be time built in for both smaller group facilitation and larger group share time that will be built in. And I'll work with Will on that on points that I think would be key to include that. Yes, I agree. That's very important to do.
That's
So
really,
it would anticipate based on past tours, is that be once a day in the evening or something you gather, or maybe several times during the day, or?
It will, how I typically design this process, it will be several times during the day, at least twice. You will have time to kind of debrief after each experience, and we'll do a little bit of that on the bus as we transition to the next experience. So I think it's important to unpack immediately after and then kind of have moments of self-reflection, but also small group facilitation where you share and then share with the larger group is typically how that will go.
That sounds great. Thank you.
thank you for bringing that up, Charles, because really one of the things that made the whole experience so meaningful was having the opportunity to share it with others. And so that's an integral piece of this whole puzzle.
That's
Kathy.
one of the things that really interests me is going, I've never been to Georgia, going to people from Maryland, people that have been involved with the lynching project, the commission now, and other things to kind of get their perspective. How does this relate to what we're trying to do in Maryland? Rhodes Scholars has a tour that covers some of these sites, but you'd be with a group of people, but they're not all the people that share a commonality of being in Maryland together, in the Maryland area, DC, wherever.
Right. Kathy.
I was wondering if there'd be options for vegan.
Absolutely. Bill, can I answer? Yeah, absolutely. We on your profile, when you fill it out on the website, it'll ask if you have allergies or preferences, and we do take that into consideration when making reservations. We let the restaurants know in advance. So
Okay, thanks. Thanks.
I also wanted to touch on the previous question that the first comment that Will made to me when we got together was that he thought it was very, very important to have those sessions where you discuss the experience right after you see it. That was his first priority, that he thought was really important, that it wasn't just to go through and see things, it was to discuss it and get everyone's perspective.
Thank you.
Amy.
I feel like Michelle just stole my words. I was going to say that I've been on have had an experience with Ashley Mann in DC that is sort of similar in terms of overall themes. And Ashley, I cannot sing her praises high enough in terms of asking really important questions that elicit spontaneous and intentional conversations. So both conversations that are like planned, but also conversations with your seatmate on the bus, or maybe as you're walking along to the next site, or maybe say, hey, let's, grab dinner or drink at 10 p.m. at night. We need to continue the conversation. So I just want to say Ashley does a really excellent job at that, and you know, I hope you all sign up because it really is a maybe not a once in a lifetime experience, but it is a experience that will inform your life.
Thank you, Amy.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Any other questions? This is your chance. You know, actually, Ashley, I'm wondering if while we're waiting for more questions, if you might speak for a moment or two about how you would recommend people prepare for this trip. Are there particular books or films or anything like that that you think people would gain that would help inform the trip?
Sure. So typically for the experiences that I curate, I do not ask for anyone to do any type of research background. I want them to enter the space with the knowledge that they already have. And kind of the pre-work that I send are self-assessments to gauge where you are in the learning process, to gauge how much you know, how culturally aware you may be, what your biases are, and really more so creating a self-awareness. So a lot of the pre-work that I suggest is more mindfulness than going out to seek and research information about civil rights history, Black history, or anything that you may view along the tour. So I would say the 7 tips that I typically suggest is have an openness to learning, exercise respect and empathy, be open to critically thinking about the work and the kind of the questions that I pose, active listening, not only to the guides and your tour mates, but also foot soldiers as well, kind of have overall reflection and self-awareness, and really a courage to engage. And then after we've done all of that, a commitment to action. And I'm happy to send those kind of in a blurb to Will, just as like the mindfulness, what we need to be aware of before we enter the space. But I typically don't ask anyone to view any types of films or anything like that for these types of experience. I think it's important to unpack what you know, and then after we've learned, kind of take that action steps to relearning and re-engaging with the work in our respective spaces. Does that kind of answer your question, Will? I don't know.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Thank you, Ashley. That's awesome. Anyone else? Yes, Joy.
Hi, thank you. This is sounds like a wonderful trip. I was wondering about how much walking there is. A lot of walking. I don't know.
Ashley, do you want to tackle that?
Yeah, I would say it's at least for most of the Birmingham or the Alabama state tours that we're doing, the walking is moderate, especially through the museum tours. I know through Montgomery, through Legacy, and the National Memorial for Peace and Justice, there is a lot of walking and there's uphill. If you need any type of accommodations, they're open to doing that, and we can maybe ask them about that ahead of time so that we can prepare that for you. But it is specific to those 2 museums, quite a lot of walking. When we get to Birmingham, everything is kind of in one area, so you wouldn't have to walk as far.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, thank you. I mean, I had a hip replacement. Hopefully by then I'll be better walking. But it's okay. It's
And there
good
are to sit down if you need to take a break.
right. But I don't want to drag people down if I need extra time and things like that. That's all. So thank you.
Of course. Anyone else? Well, thank you all for coming. I just want to mention also before we sign off is that first of all, this is, as I mentioned, this is being recorded, and if you think you missed something important, you can always go back and refresh your memory. And also you can always contact me or and with any other questions you may have, and we'll be happy make sure that we get the answers to you. Also, ETA has been just an incredible partner in putting this together. I can't thank them enough. They've been flexible and accommodating for everything that we've asked, and I know that they'll respond, quickly if it's more of a one of the logistical questions. We got a lot of I don't know how many of you know that much about the Marilyn Lynch Memorial Project, but we we were incorporated actually in 2018, and we kind of exist to research and document the history of racial terror lynching in Maryland, to advocate for public acknowledgement, and then hopefully to dignify and honor the lives of the victims. And this tour, this effort, this trip has become really a critical part of supporting that effort. It's important, my own thinking about all this has kind of changed since I got started. At first I thought, well, people need to know this history, right? I mean, and let's just start with that. But one of the things I've learned is that that's important, but it's not, it's not sufficient. It's also important to understand the connection between the history of racial terror and white supremacy and the manifestations that we see today, and then be able to look for it and to be able to be active about dismantling that apparatus. And this is such a powerful experience to have all of this history and distilled, and have this, get this historical context and this sense of place. It is really it is life altering, and getting the chance to share it with like-minded folks is just a blessing on top of that. So I hope you'll take advantage of it. And again, if you have any other questions or concerns, please feel free to give me a shout. Thank you again for joining us, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the bus. And thank you, Joanne and Michelle and Ashley, so much for coming tonight, for making the time.
Of course.
All righty.
All right.
See you
Good
guys
night.
later.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Will.
Of course.
Thank you very much.